Good day, Kahilaga. I am your math teacher, Ma'am May S. Lorilla, and we are still working for the week 1 of the third quarter of grade 8 mathematics. Our lesson is axiomatic structure of a mathematical system, wherein at the end of this lesson, you will be able to demonstrate MELC 35 and MELC 36. Wherein you will be able to describe a mathematical system and illustrate the need for axiomatic structure of a mathematical system in general. In this video, we're going to focus on defined terms. In the previous video, you have learned that there are 4 parts involved in any mathematical system. A typical mathematical system is composed of undefined terms, defined terms, axioms or postulates, and theorems. Undefined terms are words that do not have formal definition but can only be explained using examples and description. In the previous video about undefined terms, we named the different undefined terms such as the point, line, and plane. These are geometric terms that are purely mental concept or ideas. However, we can use concrete objects around us to represent these ideas. So in this video, we're going to discuss about defined term. So what is defined terms? Defined terms are terms that can be described using the undefined terms such as point, line, and plane. In the previous video, we learned the different characteristic or description of these 3 undefined terms. And using these undefined terms, we build a definition of all other geometric terms. So we're talking about definition. And a definition is a statement that clarifies or explains the meaning of a word or phrase. So why do we need defined terms? Bakit natin kailangan ng defined terms? We need defined terms to be precise and concise in what we say or write. And we need to understand each other and make sure that we mean the same thing when we say or write a particular word, especially in geometry. We need to be precise and concise. Kailangan, isa lang talaga tayo ng pinag-uusapan. So, we need a definitions. We need to define terms para maintindihan natin ang isa't isa. Kung ano ba talaga yung tinutukoy natin in a particular proof or in a particular improving or in conclusion. Okay, lalo na in logical reasoning. We need to be precise and concise. We need to be particular in defining terms. In geometry, there are many definitions. And some of the definition are the following that you are maybe familiar in your grade 7 mathematics. First is the definition of collinear points and coplanar points. Look at this figure. What can you say about point R, T, and H and point O, T, and H? In the figure, here is the point R, T, and H. And this one contains point O, T, and H. From the figure, we can determine that point R, T, and H are collinear points. So what is collinear points? If you still remember, collinear points are points that lie on the same line. Collinear. So ibig sabihin, these are points na nasa isang linya lamang sila. Maaaring makita or matagpuan sa iisang linya. While point O, T, and H, nasa isang linya ba sila? Wala sila sa isang linya. So, point O, T, and H is not collinear or non-collinear points. Wala sila sa iisang linya. But they are on the same plane. So, point O, T, and H are coplanar points. Wala sila sa iisang line, but they are contained in one plane. Coplanar points are points that lie on the same plane. Okay. So, using the undefined terms, point and line, nag-come up tayo ng definition of collinear points. While knowledge about points and plane nagkaroon naman tayo or nag-come up naman tayo ng coplanar points. So, using the undefined terms, nakakabuo ng definition. So, mula doon sa knowledge about the points and line, nakabuo or nakabuild tayo ng definition of collinear points. While the knowledge about points and plane, na-build naman ang definition ng coplanar points. So, kung may collinear points, meron tayong non-collinear points. And kung merong coplanar points, meron din non-coplanar points. Collinear points, points that lie on the same plane, or the same line, while non-collinear points are points that do not lie on the same line. While coplanar points are points that lie on the same plane, and non-coplanar do not contain or do not lie on the same plane or nasa iba silang plane. So, collinear points ang ating RTH. So, si point OT and H are non-collinear. Bakit non-collinear? Kasi, well, ito lang yung ating line na nabore. Not only the line. Pero kung makikita natin sa figure, nasa isang straight line na si point R, T, and H. So, they are collinear points. While, si point O, ito siya, wala siya sa loob ng line ni RTH. So, they are non-collinear. So, collinear points lie on the same line. Coplanar points naman, they lie on the same plane. Masasabi ba natin that point O, R, T, and H are coplanar? Opo, pinampo natin sabihin that point O, R, T, and H are coplanar. Kasi lahat sila nasa loob ng iisang plane. Pero kung maglalagay tayo dito ng point A, hindi natin pwedeng sabihin na point O, T, and A are coplanar. Kasi si point A ay nasa labas ni plane N. So, they are non-coplanar. Diba? So, kapag yung mga nasa labas na ng plane, hindi siya included dun sa plane, they are non-coplanar or non-coplanar points. Hindi sila kasali dun sa plane. Okay? So, maliwanag po ba yung ating definition of collinear points and coplanar points? Another definition is definition of intersecting line. Look at this figure. We can see that line C and line D intersect or cross their path. Intersecting lines are two lines with a common point. Two lines that intersect. So, line C and D intersect at point A. So, when we say intersecting lines, two lines that intersect or they cross their path. Kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng common point. Another definition about lines is definition of perpendicular lines. Figure, can you give me the definition of perpendicular lines? So, we can compare the given figure in the first figure. They are both intersecting. So, we can conclude that perpendicular lines are intersecting lines. But, there are other conditions. Two lines are said to be perpendicular if they intersect and form right angles. Use the symbol, yung baliktad na T, to represent a perpendicular. Ang base sa kanya is perpendicular to. So, from the definitions of the intersecting line, nakabuild ulit ng another definition, which is the definition of perpendicular line. Perpendicular lines, intersecting lines that form right angles. So, in this example, or in the figure, line GL is perpendicular to line OD. Pwede natin siyang isulat ng ganyan. So, connected yung dalawa, yung ating perpendicular lines and intersecting lines. Another definition is the definition of parallel lines. Parallel lines are lines in a plane that do not intersect. So, kung nakikita naman natin sa ating figure that the line do not intersect. the symbol for parallel is two lines na magkatabi, malapit sa isa't isa. So, in this example, line A is parallel to line E. Okay? So, connected siya as we can see that the lines do not intersect. So, the opposite of intersecting line. Another is the definition of midpoint. Given the example, we have line X, Z, and a point between them which is point Y. The definition of a midpoint is a point on a line segment that divides it into two equal segments. The halfway point of a line segment. So when we say definition of midpoint, it can be the halfway of a line segment. So kalahati siya ng ating line segment. So in the example, if y is the midpoint of line xz, then yx is equals to yz. Or line yx is congruent to line yz. So ito siya. So ito yung ating midpoint. Pag sinabi nating midpoint si y, kailangan the distance between x and y and the distance between z and y are congruent or equal. Kailangan daw pareho sila ng distance or ng measure. Because the definition of a midpoint, it divides a segment into two equal parts. So, the midpoint divides the segment into two equal segments. Another is the definition of segment bisector. Itong mga definition na binibigay ko sa inyo, na-encounter nyo na to nung grade 7 kayo, binibigyan pansin lang natin ngayon. Dahil magagamit natin siya banda-banda riyan. Segment bisector is a point, a line, or a segment that divides the segment into two congruent parts. So, pwede daw siyang point, katulad yung nasa midpoint natin. Pwede rin siyang line or a segment or any subset of a line. Katulad kasi nitong nasa ating example, ang naging segment bisector natin is a ray. So, if ray HG bisect AD, line AD, then AG is equal to DG. So, the segment bisector divides the segment into two congruent parts. Kanina, point lang ang pinag-usapan natin. So, midpoint. But, if a segment bisector is a line, madalas line or a segment or array, then, segment bisector siya. It divides this, the segment or a line into two congruent parts. Kanina kasi sa definition of midpoint, point lang yung pinag-uusapan natin. But in this example, or in this figure, ang ating naging bisector or naging panghati natin sa line ay ray or subset of a line. Okay. And, ito symbol natin that the two segments, the divided segment, are congruent. Or they are equal in distance or measure. So, that is the definition of segment bisector. So, paano natin gagamitin yung knowledge natin na yan sa mathematical system? So, pwede natin gamitin yung knowledge about the definitions in writing a conclusion or writing a logical reasoning natin pagdating sa geometry. So, here are some of the example. Write the conclusion to complete the if-then statement and justify your answer by using the definitions that you have learned. So, number 1, given if M is the midpoint of line AB, then, so dito kukumpletuhin natin yung statement, yung if-then statement. Magja-justify tayo using definition na natutunan na natin. So, if M is the midpoint of AB, so gagawa muna tayo ng, pwede natin itong i-drawing or pwede mong i-visualize muna natin. So, drawing muna tayo ng segment AB. So, segment A, B. Okay na tayo sa segment. If M is the midpoint of AB. So, M, kailangan natin i-draw si point M as the midpoint of AB. Locate natin siya. So, that is, we can use it as the midpoint and name it as point M. So, if M is the midpoint of AB, then, ano pwede natin maging sagot? Nagkaroon tayo ng drawing na ganito. And we already discussed, or we have the knowledge about the midpoint. Okay. So, ano pwede nating sabihin, or pwede nating maging justification doon sa figure natin? Pwede natin gamitin yung idea natin about the midpoint. So, ano pwede natin sabihin about AM and BM? The definition of midpoint, the midpoint divides a segment into two congruent segment or into two equal parts. So, pwede nating ilagay, then, AM is equal to MB by definition of midpoint. Yun yung pwede natin sagot. If M is the midpoint of AB, then AM is equal to MB by the definition of midpoint. Yun yung ating justification. And then, we already completed the if-then statement. If M is the midpoint of AB, then AM is equal to MB. Pag hiningan ka ng justification, ang magiging justification mo is by the definition of midpoint. Yun yung reason mo kung bakit yun ang naging statement mo. Another, given ray OM is perpendicular to line LN, then, drawing natin siya muna. Okay. If ray OM is perpendicular to line LN. Okay. So, in the illustration, meron tayong perpendicular line. Okay. So, ano yung pwede natin gamiting knowledge dito? Since nung may drawing natin at saka yung given naman natin is about perpendicular, so pwede natin gamitin dito yung knowledge natin about perpendicular lines. Anong pwede natin gamitin dito? Given that OM is perpendicular to LN, pwede natin kunin yung area ng right angle. Diba? Kasi diba, kanina yung ating naging discussion about perpendicular line. Perpendicular line is two lines that intersect and form a right angle. So, if ray OM is perpendicular to line LN, therefore, they form a right angle. So, pwede kang kumuha kahit alin dyan sa dalawa. Since dalawa yung nabuo nating right angle, pwedeng si angle NOM o kaya naman si angle LOM. But in my case, ang gagamitin ko ay si MON. Pwede naman NOM or si MON. Then, angle MON is a right angle by the definition of perpendicular lines. So, ang aking new statement, if ray OM is perpendicular to line LN, then angle MON is a right angle. Justification by definition of perpendicular lines. Okay? Naintindihan? Another, if line CD is segment bisector of segment AB, then blank. Ano yung pwede nating i-complete sa if and then statement natin? If line CD is a segment bisector of segment AB, then blank. So, drawing natin si line CD at ang kanyang segment bisector AB. So, segment AB and si line CD, which is a segment bisector of the segment AB. Okay, ganyan yung ating drawing. And what can you conclude about this figure? Ano yung pwede nating gamiting knowledge? Pwede natin gamitin knowledge yung about segment bisector, the definition of segment bisector. So in the definition of segment bisector, line CD, nagkaroon siya ng point of intersection with segment AB na pwede natin pangalanan point M, yung kanilang point of intersection. And nahati natin si point AB, si line AB, si segment AB sa dalawang congruent segment. So, meron tayong segment AM at saka segment MB. Yan. Dahil nagkaroon ng point of intersection dito, nahati yung ating segment AB into two congruent parts. The segment AM and segment BM or MB, I mean. O ano yung pwede natin maging then part? If line CD is a segment bisector of AB, then AM is equal to MB or BM. Okay? So, pwede nating maging if then part is then line or the segment AM is congruent to segment MB or AM is equals to MB. O, kung sa unang part pa lang, alam na knowledge pa lang natin is more on equal or equal segment, pwede natin gamitin AM is equal to MB. But since we are in geometry, pwede rin natin gamitin segment AM is congruent to segment MB by the definition of segment bisector. So our new statement is if line CD is a segment bisector of segment AB, then segment AM is congruent to segment MB and AM is equal to MB. For the reason of definition of segment bisector. Do you understand the examples on how are we going to apply the knowledge about definition in logical reasoning? Doon sa mga example natin, pinakita natin that we can use the knowledge about definition in justification of logical reasoning. Doon sa mga if and then statement natin. So in this part, prepare your learning activity sheet number 1. Do learning task 3. Check the column for yes if you agree with the given statement, otherwise check no. Base your answer on the figure below. So in your learning activity sheet number 1, learning task 3, you are given this figure and a table wherein there are 5 statements that you have to agree or check yes if you agree with the statement and check no if you disagree. So let's say for example, lines R and T are intersecting line based on the given figure. So check natin yung ating figure if line R and line T are intersecting line. So looking at the figure, ito si line T, ito si line R, and there is a point of intersection, point E. Therefore, I agree with the statement. So, lalagyan ko ng check mark si yes. Ganun lang yung gagawin ninyo. Lalagyan nyo ng check mark yung tapat ni yes if you agree with the statement based on the figure, and put a check mark on the column of no if you disagree with the statement. Okay, do you understand the direction? So get your learning activity sheet and be ready. And here is our timer. You will be given 3 minutes. Okay. Timer starts now. Check your work honestly. So you have to check the column for yes if you agree with the statement, and check the column for no if you disagree. So number 1, points A and E and F are collinear. If you agree or you disagree. Point A, E, and E, A, E, and F are collinear. So from the given figure, ito si point E, point A, point F. And they are collinear. Okay? Yan. Point A, E, and F. So they are collinear. So check the column for yes. Point C, F, and G are coplanar. Point C. Ito si point C, point G, point F. They are all inside a plane, so they are coplanar. Lines R and line T, line R and line T are coplanar. This is line T, line R, and they are contained in one plane, in the plane S, so they are coplanar. Point E is the intersection of lines R and T. Check ulit natin yung figure. Ito yung point of intersection. And that is point E. So, yes, we agree with the statement. Next, point F and G are collinear. Ito si point F. Ito si point G. Are they collinear? Okay, they are not collinear. They are non-collinear points because they do not contain in one line. They do not lie on the same line. Magkaiba sila ng pwesto. So, we disagree with the statement. So, ang may check ay yung no. Okay, did you get 5? I hope you get it correctly, the 5 correct answer. Okay, another set of definitions naman ang ating i-discuss. If you do not have any questions about learning task 3, then I will end this video. This video is all about the different definition of terms or definitions that is built from points and lines. Okay, so in the next video, it will be the continuation of defined terms. I will tackle definitions, angles. So, yung mga definitions na yon, na-discuss na yun sa inyo nung kayo ay grade 7 pa. Pero, i-refresh natin or i-review natin siya on the next video. Goodbye, Kahilaga! Thank you!